Good evening. How are you? Well, day after day, we're being rewarded for our patience. The temperature, according to Thomas Jefferson, is about 75 now, but the high was only in the low 80s. And I managed to get to a pool and to do some swimming there. I guess it wasn't hot enough for others, so I had the place to myself pretty much. The lap swimming can only be appreciated by those who do laps and like to do laps. It's sort of a moving meditation. Anyhow, Trump is still insisting the numbers are wrong. He's going to keep saying it like your younger brother until you punch your brother in the mouth, or you say, yeah, sure, you're right. And I guess that's what he plays upon. He's a psychotic with a low IQ. And my wife Holly the other day saw a story that said his IQ was 71, but as far as I can tell, no one knows what his IQ is. I suppose 100 is average. These tests have their limitations. I think we can just look at what he does and decide that trying to choose a path for legacy, success in any traditional manner, even if he sees himself as Alexander the Great, he's failed at every turn. And to try to say that the numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics are wrong, for any of us who spend any time reading them and thinking about them, they're quite detailed, and they force you to consider what the stats say. And so his question should be, troubled Trump, instead of bullying a capable official with a long history of dealing with numbers and data that Trump doesn't know a damn thing about, the national conversation should be, what went wrong here? You invite her and others to your office. What should we do differently? Well, he doesn't want to hear it's the tariffs, probably. He doesn't want to hear it's a higher cost of living. He doesn't want to hear that we're in danger of inflation. He doesn't want to hear that the large corporations that are taking advantage or will take advantage of his programs, they don't need to hire people. He's giving them the money. So that's one step today in this danger. Another example is Trump thinks of taking over the District of Columbia because a former Doge worker was attacked. And you don't have to follow this stuff very carefully, but you may remember that one of the guys that Elon Musk had hanging around and he was so great was a guy named Big Balls. And I'm not sure they've decided that what happened to, I think his car was trashed. I'm not sure that anybody has decided that had anything to do, or that they knew who they were talking to, because he's not exactly a visible celebrity. You and I couldn't probably draw a sketch of what he looked like. So this is Trump again, out there on a limb, trying to bully his way past other embarrassment. Now, troubled Trump, the Luddite, also wants to take back $7 billion of rooftop solar grants. Now, these were grants for 900,000 people. A variety of Dems and Republicans supported this. And it's targeted for lower and middle income families. And it affects people over 49 states. What is wrong with this man? I'm telling you, he's a psychopath. He's got a low IQ. He's impulse driven. He's a misanthrope of the first order, and he sees himself as doing the wrong thing, and that's cool to him. There's no such thing as good trouble for him. There's only trouble, and he enjoys people feeling pain and hurt. And I mean, his heroes, besides Hitler, must be Stalin, people of another age who seem to get a great feeling out of hurting other people. So, and then we have the situation in which Netanyahu is in the news, and that's not uncommon. But it sounds like he's following the same playbook as Trump. Now, Netanyahu has been investigated and is being prosecuted for corruption in Israel. And Israel itself is upset with him about his corruption and about his conduct of the war, particularly what's going on in Gaza right now. And Netanyahu fired his own prosecutor. Now, you might say, how can he do that? Which is similar to what we say here. I'm always asked, can they do that? Well, they may not, but they can do it if they ignore the law. No one seeks to enforce it, and we have no reckoning. And that is America. We don't reckon. We don't reckon. People do shit. We say, oh, that's terrible. We suck a thumb. We don't do a damn thing about it. Members of Congress, House and Senate, Republican and Democrat, don't say or do anything about it. They sidle up to the issue and they look at it and, I don't know, they say, oh, I don't know about that. That's kind of troubling. And everybody gets excited because they're saying nothing otherwise. So Netanyahu is going to find himself in court, and the Supreme Court, their Supreme Courts, are going to decide whether or not he can remove the prosecutor. Now, my preliminary research suggests no. Common sense screams no. But now, and that's not the end of it. There's this little thing going on in Gaza in which people are dying on a daily basis, supposedly because they're accidentally shot this way or that way by the Israelis. And so I was talking about women and children suffering the other day, and Holly said to me, well, why do you say women and children? I said, I think it should be all non-combatants. And at this point, I'm not sure there are any combatants left. And still, there are hostages. And we have this guy, Steve Witkoff, over there, supposed to be working out a deal so that we would have peace. We would have a ceasefire. Well, he hasn't done anything. Sending Steve Witkoff to Israel, we'd do better if we gave him a ticket and told him to go to the French Riviera and work on his tan. Now, Netanyahu wants to occupy Gaza. Now, this is not a new statement, but he's basically saying, there's nothing more we can talk about. And so this week he's talking to his legislature, and they're going to decide what they're going to do. But remember, there are three things he discussed were his objectives, but the only one that's of pertinent concern right now is the one where he said his objective is to ensure that Gaza will never again threaten Israel. No ceasefire, scorched earth. I'm coming for you, and I don't care if you're in my way. I'm going to run over you. Did he say that? No, he didn't. I did. But we pussyfoot around all the time about what these people are saying when it's very clearly what they're saying and what they intend to do, because then they do it. We're an accomplice in this series of war crimes. There was a time when they were defending Israel. We're past that time. What we're doing now is killing, hurting, for no reason. The control of the situation is clear. There was a time when the UN made a difference, and I wonder how much it pushed Trump and Netanyahu and perhaps others over the brink, that you have a series of nation states that are calling out the war crimes. And I think it's about time that we did. Do you or I want to be associated as a gang with policies that kill the innocent? In other words, anybody who's a non-combatant, whether they be a woman, a child, a rescue worker, whether they be from someplace else and they're there. How many times can you make a mistake day after day, killing Palestinians? How can you do that? Well, you can do that if you're the devil. It's very interesting. Carl Sagan does a study on the demons. And in part he's saying these are the creations of bad minds to explain what they do as if they have no control. Well, Trump is a demon. Netanyahu is a demon. We have to start acting like they are the demons they are. We have to start, when they do something, not say, oh, I didn't think he'd do that. Oh, come on. When are we ever going to buy this stuff? How do we have people with such long resumes that suggest such incisive thinking and experience fail to lead, to remedy, to stand up for what's right and good? I understand the problem. If you're part of, say, a network, or perhaps a political party, or, fill in the blanks, and then there's this tug that the conflict you have between your loyalty to the organization in which you are subsumed is at odds with your morality, with past law, the Constitution, common sense, the things that we were taught as children, and then by teachers, and in the best case by the example of people we work with and know, people in your neighborhood. I did get to go for a swim today, and it was interesting. When I was hiding from the sun after my swim, with my skin you have to be careful, and but I was listening to the families instructing their children how to behave. Were these people, none of them, exposed to right behavior? Or did they always plan they would go in and take whatever they could because they're masters of the universe? Anyhow, day by day we have to talk these issues because in the past it mattered. It certainly mattered when it was Watergate. It mattered when it was Vietnam. It mattered when it was the Contras. It mattered when it was weapons of, weapons that could be used in nuclear war that didn't exist in Iraq. And we have situations here where we don't know where the lies end and the truth begins. That's no way to operate. So, I'm going to say good evening to you, and I hope to see you tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.